Hello everyone, I am the Ethernet Boys and welcome to my ESA Summer 2021 submissions for TP any % race between me, the Ethernet Boys, and D3 or Delighted. What's going to be happening is pretty much just a race between me and Delighted of TP any %, nothing really special, just two any % races, or two any % runs. Pretty much completing the game from a fresh console boot or without using any SRAM flags from previous files. And then timing will start as soon as we select our file, and then we'll end on the final blow for Ganon. So I'm going to go ahead and explain everything once the run gets started. So let's go ahead and get our timer ready. And we'll start in about 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and go. Alright, so the first trick we have in this run is going to be something called bit, or back in time. And how we're going to do that is we're actually going to, well, I guess it's not really the first trick. First trick we're going to do is called gate clip. And what gate clip is actually a RNG trick, not too RNG heavy. But we're pretty much going to go over here and grab this rock, take it all the way to the gate that's blocking us from going to the bridge, and we're going to go ahead and clip through that gate with this rock. And what we're going to do is we're going to do bit, like I mentioned earlier, or back in time. And what that's going to do is we're going to void out and soft reset our console. And doing it on the correct frame, we should respawn on the title screen, but also be able to control Link at the same time, if that makes sense. For race purposes and or marathon purposes, we're going to go over here to do safe bit, which is a 100% consistent method for doing bit as long as you get the correct frame. So if done correctly, we should be respawning on the title screen here. And since we do have the title screen up, we actually have to void out. Or else we're just going to start our game like normal. But once we do void out, we actually can take control of Link and save. And saving our title screen file actually gives us some really cool things. What it's going to give us is going to give us the green tunic, like you saw. We're going to have the Ordon sword and Hylian shield. And as well, it's going to give us a flag, a story flag, that's actually going to come in handy in a little bit. But it conveniently spawns us here in Farron Springs, so we're just going to roll our way over here to Koro, and he's going to give us the lantern, which we will need to progress through the game. I should mention in this game, rolling is not difficult, but it is technical, if that makes sense. Rolling in this game, there's early frame, correct frame, and late frames. If you get an early frame, you just don't roll. You miss a roll completely. If you get a correct frame, which would be a frame perfect roll, you actually preserve all your speed and you can gain up to the max speed. If you get a late frame and you're on flat ground, you should be fine. But if you're going up a hill, like let's say like right here, and you get a late frame, then you'll actually lose some speed. And it's kind of very punishing, especially going up hills, because going up hills in this game really loses like a lot of momentum. But yeah, so we're just gonna continue through here normally, and we're actually going to go save the kid and the monkey at the end of the Farron Woods, which is right in front of Forest Temple. Through here, you might not be able to see it on recording, but this game on GameCube does like to lag a lot. So when the game lags, that also messes up our roll timing. So in certain areas, you may see us do some lag reduction or have to adjust our roll timings, just because rolling in this game, you know, if there's lag, it's obviously going to change the frame that we have to roll at. So it's just kind of a little bit of annoyance. But yeah, so we're just going to go ahead and continue here normally. We're just going to grab the small key. Kind of playing a little bit normally here throughout the rest of here. One thing I did forget to mention, I, the Ethernet Boys on the left, will be playing in German, while D3 on the right is going to be playing in English. And the main difference there's only a 6-second time save, just because the text in TP is actually really fast because we have quick text. So it doesn't really matter what language you're on. The only region difference, or like exclusive difference, would be Japanese version, and the Japanese version actually has a glitch that we will use in this run called map glitch that's been patched. So that's the only reason we don't use Japanese, or else Japanese would technically be the fastest language. Since we can't do that, German is the fastest language. It saves 6 seconds in any % run due to one thing we will see later, and then adds a funny text glitch at the end of the run. But pretty much if you have a US copy here and you want to actually speedrun this game, there's no real reason to get the PAL version just to save 6 seconds. So here, we're just going to break the cage, and then we're pretty much done with the first part. After this, we're going to be continuing the game kind of normally. We're going to be doing goats 2, and then we're going to be actually doing something a little different after that. So yeah, as you can see, text in this game is really fast. If you just smash A and B, it goes by extremely fast. So yeah, now we are on Goats 2, which is about 20 goats, and Goats is not RNG to my knowledge, but Goats are very sensitive to opponent's positioning and Link's yelling. So you may see some goats not want to do what we want them to do. So you see here on the left, I'm going to be going for a right side goats, which is riskier but faster. While D3 is going for a left side goats, which is generally safer. So you can see D3 got a really good time. He got an 18.99, which is absolutely amazing. I would say 20 and under is kind of what you want to go for in a run. 20 to 25 is an okay, and then like a 25 to 30 is an alright. Anything after that, if it was PB attempts, I would probably just reset. But since obviously this is a race/marathon submission, obviously we wouldn't reset. So now, another cool thing about doing bit and saving our title screen file, it actually lets us come to Bo's house early and get the iron boots. So normally in the game, you would get this after saving Epona in Kakariko Village. But since we do Back in Time has a special story flag that just lets us, we can save that to our file, and it lets us just go to Bo's house early. And speaking of Bo is actually kind of, so Bo's RNG. Bo is one of the bigger run killers. He's pure RNG, and you can try and manipulate him, but it's kind of just a guessing game, to be honest. Bo has, I believe it's 25 chance in the first phase is 25% chance to do nothing, 25% chance to dodge, and I believe 25% chance to dodge. Sorry. So it's dodge, do nothing, and slap. And then, so I actually got a really good Bo there. So that was kind of really what you want to look for in runs, while D3 is actually having some trouble with Bo on the right. In second phase Bo, he won't ever do nothing, so I believe it's slap, dodge, or charge attack you. So yeah, I actually got a perfect Bo. Pretty much a slap and take him immediately off the edge is kind of what you want to look for in a run. Usually, the time you want to look for Iron Boots is around a 7:30 or below. That would be like a really good time. An alright time would be around like a 7:40. But yeah, so 7:32, got Iron Boots. D3 is now just finishing up Bo. Like I said, Bo is kind of like one of the bigger run killers. He's not getting a bad time either, like a 7, maybe like a 7:50. That's not too bad of a time, but obviously if it was PB attempts, we would probably reset. So, me on the left, I'm actually going to save here right after getting Iron Boots, because we're actually going to be using this file. We need this specific file in the way it is right now for something later. So I'll kind of explain more on that when we get to that. So now we're just kind of going to roll our way through, continue the game normally. This is the part where we actually will turn into a wolf. And we kind of need to go through that, meet Midna, learn about, or, get our senses and stuff like that. Learn our wolf movement, so we're just kind of going to continue the game normally. There will be a couple things I will mention once they pop up, but there's generally really nothing to explain right here. Oh, and then also, I guess one thing I did forget to mention, but it'd be pretty apparent from the run. TP has skippable cutscenes. So that actually saves a lot of time. There's some cutscenes that aren't skippable, like Master Sword and Squidna cutscene, but most cutscenes are pretty skippable, and it actually saves a lot of time. So right here, I'm going to try and do a setup to break the box here before the cutscene starts, and what that does, it saves exactly 3 frames. That's it. So I actually did get the box break. So that saves about 3 frames. Not really a big difference, but it's just kind of fun to go for. And then D3 on the right as well is going to attempt to do a box break. But it looks like he didn't get it. Like I said, saves 3 frames. It's not really a big thing. So yeah, we're just gonna kind of continue through the sewers normally. There's not really too much to explain about here. It's just movement. When there is a couple things to say, I will mention what they are, but kind of right now we're just gonna continue normally. Alright, so we're going to be approaching something here called Minda Tech Skip. I believe I did not get it this run, but we will see D3 do it. So what Minda Tech Skip is if you jump off at a certain angle, you actually can skip touching the water, which prompts a Minda text. So right here, I actually did miss it. So I ended up having to talk to Minda, which isn't a huge deal. But you can save some time there. So if we look at D3 on the right, I believe he does get it, so we'll see it right now demonstrated. Yeah, so see how he didn't get the Minda text there? So he actually skipped it, but still activated the trigger for starting the jumps. So one thing to mention about Minda jumps, so if Minda has text right before her jump, like for example right here on the left side, how there's text before my jump, you actually get 1 frame after the text to get an early jump for an input. So on the left side here, you're actually going to see me get Minda text right there because I got the 1 framer right after the cutscene. So there's about 4 of them, Minda text skips that you can, or early jumps that you can get. That's pretty much all the movement here, besides some dash canceling. So I guess I should mention dash canceling. So dash canceling is a cool feature. So if you were to dash off an edge or cancel or interrupt your dash with an animation of like with an attack or something, it actually resets your dash so you can dash again, which is really useful in certain areas. So yeah, we're just gonna head over here. We're just gonna continue normally. These Kargaraks can actually troll you really hard. But yeah, we're just gonna continue normal and just go ahead and meet Zelda, and then we're actually approaching our the next biggest run killer in TP any percent. His name is Hugo, and he's a very nice guy, but he's also a not very nice guy sometimes. So we'll go ahead and see him right after this cutscene. So here, normally in normal gameplay, you would actually go get the sword and shield from Ordon Village. There's a couple things wrong with that. One, we already have the sword and shield. Not the correct shield, but we have a sword and shield. 2, the game doesn't know we have a sword and shield in our back, so the game won't let us continue. And 3, since we did back in time, we have a story flag that's set to way later in the game after saving Epona. So Ordon is not in the correct state, so we couldn't even get the sword and shield even if we wanted to. So we have to do something called sword and shield skip, or our buddy Hugo here. So we're just going to grab this Boblin from all the way over here. And we're just going to bring him all the way over to the Twilight Wall. This trick is kind of precise. It's kind of annoying sometimes and I would say, is very heavy reset. So you're just we have visual cues to look for on the ground. We're going to push Hugo into a certain position and then do something we call a long jump attack. And what a long jump attack is like a super long jump that you can get when either an enemy or something that you're targeting is at a certain position. It gives you just extra distance. So unfortunately there I did mess up and get a bad long jump attack. Or I actually didn't get a long jump attack. So I have to void out and restart. which loses about a minute. So D3 on the right is actually getting Hugo into a pretty good position. And as you see there, he got a really long jump attack, which takes him all the way to the Twilight wall. And there's two different triggers there. There's the one that tells you to go back, and then there's the second one that lets you go through. That one is actually an air trigger, so you don't even have to touch the ground to actually get that one. But yeah, so after this one, all you're going to do is you're going to proceed through the Twilight like normal. What's really cool in any percent, you actually don't need to do Fair and Twilight. Fair and Twilight is completely skipped in any percent. Just the way the route works, we can actually skip it and not actually not have to do it at all. So I'm just reattempting going to my positioning here and reattempting Hugo once again. Hugo is kind of annoying since he is RNG on when he attacks and doesn't. So, I got a good long jump attack there. That was really good. And then we're just going to proceed on to Fair and Twilight. So pretty much here, what D3 is doing on the right is we're actually just... This is like the first Shadow Beast fight you get in the game, and it's actually telling you, like, hey, you know, this is how you learn Midnight Charge, pretty much. And it's actually really cool that we learned Midnight Charge. Well, this fight is actually really cool for a couple reasons. One, it gives us a portal, which we will need in a second. Or not in a second, but in a couple minutes. And then as well, it gives us Minute Charge, which we're actually going to use in a couple minutes as well, so yeah, D3 is actually skipping the vessel there since, like I said, we don't need to do Fair and Twilight, so we don't need to kill any of the bugs or get the vessel at all or anything like that. So yeah, right there on the left, what I'm doing is I'm learning the Midnight Charge, which is a really good move that we're actually going to be abusing in about a couple minutes, so. D3's in the Purple Mist area. And then he's going to be approaching Early Master Sword, or EMS. What that is, I'm not sure if it's the biggest sequence break, but it's a pretty huge sequence break. It allows us to get the Master Sword early, instead of, usually we would get it after Midnight's Desperate Hour, or right after Lakebed Temple, which is the third temple casually. But this glitch only works on the SD version of the game. They heavily patched it in the HD version. I swear they spent about 80% of their budget patching EMS, I swear. So yep, D3 is just approaching right now. He is entering the area with Jamal, which is one of the Shadow Beasts that lets us do EMS. And we have to get Jamal into a very specific position just so that we can abuse the Shadow Beast attack to get out of bounds. Looks like Jamal's not being nice. Looks like, unfortunately, D3 did mess up. So something here, we have to be careful. D3 almost killed both of those Shadow Beasts. If D3 were to have killed both of those Shadow Beasts, his run would be over. If you kill both of them, they all die, and you literally cannot continue. And unfortunately, D3 did die, and I unfortunately bonked. This is a wonderful start, isn't it? So unfortunately, if you do die, you do spawn all the way back at the beginning of Fair and Twilight. So that's the very beginning after Sword and Shield skip. This game is very punishing if you didn't see. Alright, so I'm approaching EMS, and I'll kind of go a little bit more into EMS. So what we're going to do is we're going to abuse the Shadow Beast attack and have Link target the Shadow Beast's hand at the highest point of its attack, and that abusing that, we can jump out of bounds. Like that. So when we're out of bounds, we can run over here and, you know, follow a specific path and barely make it to the other side. This is where you would end up being after Midnight's Desperate Hour casually. But since we did that Shadow Beast jump attack, or Minute Charge, we actually just got out of bounds and got there early. So here we're just going to continue normal. We just need to fight the Shadow Beast. We need to fight Skull Kid a bunch of times, and then we'll actually get to the Master Sword puzzle. D3 on the right is actually catching up again since unfortunately he did die. It's just unfortunate. This game is very punishing. The health in the SD versions is very, very punishing. In HD, they actually nerf, I think the max damage you could take from like fall damage and stuff like that is like about half a heart or something like that. In this game, like I think max, like you take a lot of damage in this game. It's very punishing. Like if you jump off the top of Zora's Domain as Wolf, you will most likely insta-die if you have 4 hearts or less. Alright, so D3 is approaching once again for EMS. And unfortunately, he's having a tough time right now. So yeah, like I said earlier, spin attacking those Shadow Beasts is actually a lot safer than charge attacking, because if you do accidentally kill them, like I said, your run is over. Nice, and D3 got EMS, and he's just going to follow the specific path again, and then barely make it out of bounds. Or make it to the other side. If you actually don't jump at the right location there, you actually will void out even if you touch the ground. So that's something you need to be aware of. It's kind of risky, or kind of dangerous, so you just... It's not too hard, though. So yeah, I'm just finishing up Sacred Grove. We just need to pretty much fight the Skull Kid a bunch of times, and then we can actually get up to the Master Sword. So yeah, there's not really much to mention here. This fight's pretty simple. It's just jump attack him when he's using the trumpet. And in order to get him to actually do the trumpet, you need to kill at least one of these puppets. Alright, so once we're done with Skull Kid, we can actually go over to the Master Sword puzzle, which is the absolute hardest thing in the game. Totally not the easiest puzzle in the game. Alright, so for this puzzle, it's the same every time, and it's symmetrical, so you can go either way. I choose to go right, because I call it Wii Strats, since you can actually do the same method either way, even though the Wii version is mirrored. But it's a pretty simple puzzle. You can either go left or right, down, up, 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 left or right, depending which way you went first. 2 times, then down, 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 right, up. So the pattern I take is, yeah, that should be good. Up, and then... Yeah, so hardest puzzle in the game confirmed. But yeah, so this actually unlocks Master Sword, which lets us turn into human. And turning into human also lets us warp, which is really nice. It's really convenient to have early on. Saves some time. And yeah. And this actually, so this cutscene would crash, actually, if we didn't have the green tunic. If we didn't get the green tunic from back in time, this cutscene might actually crash. And this is one of those cutscenes that is unskippable, unfortunately, but there's reasons for it. And also, who doesn't want to watch a Master Sword cutscene? And D3 is now doing the puzzle, which is, once again, the hardest puzzle in the game. And then you should be at Master Sword very shortly. So after Master Sword, we actually, like I said earlier, that first Shadow Beast fight actually helped out a lot because it gave us Mina Charge, a portal, and I guess learning how to fight Shadow Beast. So what we're actually going to do now is after getting Master Sword, we're actually going to warp, since we can warp since we have Master Sword now. So we're allowed to change between human and wolf whenever we want, even in places we're not supposed to. So we're actually going to warp away after getting Master Sword back to Faron Woods, and we're going to go to Forest Temple early. Like I said, we don't need to do any of the Faron Twilight just because it's unnecessary. We can skip it. So yeah, so we can now warp, and what we're going to do is just warp back to Faron Woods since we have that one portal, or else we would be soft-locked here. And generally, most of the time, we will stay as Wolf just because Wolf has the fastest movement, unless it's certain areas, obviously. But generally, Wolf will have the fastest movement, so we'll just stay as Wolf most of the time. So yeah, we're just going to continue through the cave here and get back to pretty much where we did EMS, but this time we're actually going to kill the Shadow Beast. So something cool here we can actually do, since we can transform into human now, we can actually do something cool here. So normally you would have to do midna jumps all the way around, but that's slow. But since we have the lantern, we can actually just swing our lantern, roll 3 times, swing again, roll 3 more times, and then swing again, and then roll the rest of the way. And we could do a cool break slide here to preserve momentum going up hills. Not required, but looks cool. And then now we're back to where we did EMS, but since we already have Master Sword, we don't need to have these Shadow Beasts here. So we can just pretty much kill these Shadow Beasts and get the warp portal. Alright, so D3 is now warping back, and he's going to pretty much do the same thing we just did. Alright, so here we can actually get to Forest Temple early because there's a web in the Twilight since you're not supposed to be human. And now, since we're in Forest Temple, we're going to do something called Forest Bit. So we're going to do a specific setup over here and then jump attack at a certain frame, pause our game, and then save our file. So this is called Save Bit. It's a method to do back in time using the save prompt. You can get early frame, perfect frame, or late frame. Perfect frame and late frame are generally the most common ones. But then you would just save your game, continue, and then soft reset after clicking yes, which would give you the perfect time to do back in time. And what we did there is we did back in time, spawned on the title screen. We actually jumped off the bridge, but selected the title, or clicked the title screen to get our file select up. And what happened there is we actually voided out, but we brought up the title screen at the same time. So now we're respawned, but we're also in the file select screen. And if we select that file that we had from Bo earlier that we saved, we can actually spawn on the title screen, somewhere on the title screen, and it'll actually put us in the King Boblin fight. And what we could do there is we can actually soft reset our game by clicking the reset button or doing the reset button combo. And we can actually, as it's resetting, if we skip that cutscene, it actually sets our, there's a thing called boss flags. It actually sets our boss flag value very high. And that's going to come in handy here really quickly. Right after this spider, which can be very annoying, but I actually got very lucky with that spider. So boss flags generally are activated once you enter a mini boss or a boss room, just so the game knows, hey, you entered a boss, you know? I unfortunately didn't get my break slide there, so no more swag strats. So one side effect of having those boss flags super high up is that we all of a sudden get a lot of monkeys. And then as soon as we skip this cutscene, we have all the monkeys on the bridge. So what this does, since that number is so high up, the monkeys on this bridge here actually share the same value as that boss flag value. So having that number very high means that the game thinks we have all those monkeys saved. So we can actually just get Boomerang like really, really early. So now we're approaching Ook, which is the mini boss of Forest Temple. And a couple things with Ook. Ook is RNG. Ook, I believe the fastest cycle you can get for Ook is a 2-hop. And then I believe Ook can go indefinitely if he really wanted to. So I got a 3-cycle Ook, which is not horrible at all. And then since we have Master Sword, we can just do a 1 combo or a 1 cycle. Generally, if you had Ord on Sword here, casually, you would actually have to do 2 cycles. But since we do have Master Sword, we can just do a 1 cycle. And here, we're going to get the Boomerang, which is, I believe, the most broken item in this game. I did mention earlier about LJAs. LJAs are long jump attacks, and they don't have to be used with the Boomerang. It just has to be, and it can be activated with anything you target. So if you target an enemy, for example, like Hugo, while Hugo's meets the certain requirements for an LJA, you can get a really super long jump attack. Boomerang is generally easier because you can use it anywhere. The Boomerang has a target, so you can target it anywhere, and then you can pretty much use it anywhere. Dungeons, just not inside, but obviously we wouldn't really need it inside. So we're gonna grab Boomerang. We're gonna save warp out just because it's faster to leave the dungeon. So I'm going to equip Boomerang and Iron Boots here because we're going to be needing those shortly. And since we do have warping, we can actually just warp right after this. Very convenient. So like I said, we're not completing Fern Twilight, so you're probably wondering how we're going to escape. So luckily, during Fern Twilight, the layer that it's in, there's no gate blocking the way to Hyrule Field. There is a Minitex though, but we're just gonna do, like I mentioned earlier, a long jump attack with the Boomerang to kind of skip that Minitex. So how a long jump attack works with Boomerang, if the Boomerang is over a void, so somewhere if you fell off the map and you would void out, or on a floor higher than Link's feet, you will actually get a long jump attack. It will lunge you pretty far forward and give you a super long jump attack. So here, we're going to inch over to the edge here, and then do 2 long jump attacks here to actually skip the Minitex, or the Minute trigger right there that's blocking you from leaving. And then now we're in Hyrule Field, we can go to Elden Twilight. So that's the way we skip not having to do Fair Twilight. So here, what I'm going to be doing is I'm actually going to be skipping a Mailman trigger here. So I'm going to go to a specific spot on the floor here, aim my Boomerang, and then once the Boomerang is out of bounds or over the void, I will jump attack, which gives me a long jump attack to clear enough distance to skip the Mailman trigger. So now we don't have to talk to him. So now that we're at Elden Twilight, there is a trick coming up that is a 1-framer that saves a minute if you get it, but loses a minute if you fail it, give or take a minute. So it's called Gorge Void, and Gorge Void is 1 frame window. You can mash for it or time for it. I used to mash for it a lot, and I used to do different methods, but recently I had started learning the timing method, which is just timing your A press in between in that one frame. And it actually is really simple. It's actually really easy. So what we're going to do here is we're going to kill the Shadow Beast. And then right after this cutscene, there's one frame before the next cutscene start. And if we hold L and A, or hold L and then click A on the correct frame, we can void out here. Which skips that cutscene, which forces you to warp away. Because the cutscene can't start when you're in the air. So since we skipped that, we can't approach that area or else the cutscene will start again. So we're going to go around the gorge here. And we're going to do something called Rupee Roll. And what Rupee Roll is we're going to dig up this rupee here, if I could find it. Approach this fence, transform into human. Position ourselves, and then target the fence in the background just to pick up the rupee on the way. Target specifically here at the highest point, and then we're going to get an LJA off this target right here, which is going to put us on top of the fence and give us rupee text. And after that rupee text, we have a little bit to do a roll and turn around. And that lets us grab the edge and skip going the normal, or going to the gorge right there where the cutscene would start. And you're probably wondering why we don't just grab the bridge. Well, unfortunately, we can't grab the bridge because, one, we never beat Forest Temple, and we didn't clear the Twilight, so we can't actually grab that bridge. One thing about this area here is you're going to see me go like around the edge and be very careful. If I were to walk forward right there, since I do have iron boots, it would actually start the King Boblin fight. So there's a trigger there that actually starts the King Boblin 1 fight when King Boblin steals Colin. And you have to fight him in Hyrule Field. But if we just walk around it like that, we can actually skip it. And unfortunately, D3 did not get Gorge Void, so you're going to see a difference in the route here. So this is what happens on D3's side if you don't get Gorge Void. You're forced to warp away no matter what. So you have to go back to Farron Woods and escape again, and then kind of do a detour since it would just waste more time to go back to do Rupee Roll. So I'm just going around the King Boblin trigger again, and then I'm just going to go back to where the Gorge Void cutscene is at. So since we never got that cutscene in the first place, since we got Gorge Void, we can actually just run all the way back here and get the cutscene from the other side. Very convenient because we can just warp away right now and kind of do what we need to do in Linear Twilight. So yeah, that cutscene right there as well gives you map warping, which means you can pull up the map and then select the portal straight from the map instead of having to call midnight every time. We do need that for something later in the run, so that's kind of why we have to go for it. So yeah, it looks like D3 is actually going for Rupee Roll again, just to probably get it over with. I'm escaping the forest once again. We don't have to go back to Elden Twilight through the actual Twilight Wall, since we did get the warp portal over there in Kakariko. And unfortunately, D3 did get the Mailman trigger, so we're seeing the Mailman today. So yeah, after escaping one more time, we're actually going to head over to the left side instead of going to the right side, because we're going to do another gate clip. And once we do this gate clip, we can actually get to Lake Hylia earlier than we're supposed to, which kind of helps out in the route. So if you bonk these gates, the one we're coming up on right now, you actually have, I believe it's like one frame to actually go right through it. So if you angle yourself in a certain direction, bonk and side hop, you can actually, if I could actually do it correctly, you can actually clip through the gate. Sometimes it's a troll, There you go. Yeah, so you can just walk through it like that. And what's really cool about this area over here, once we load the next transition, it actually loads a cutscene. So we get teleported to the bridge. And then all we can do here is we can jump off into Lake Hylia. So now we're going to do something called Pillar Clip. And Pillar Clip, since we have Iron Boots early, we can actually get into Lake Bed Temple early. Which we can get Claw Shot early. So this trick is kind of precise. It's not too hard, but it's kind of precise. I'm just going to position myself over here above the pillar. Then I will sink down and actually try to clip my way out of bounds and then into the loading zone here. So if you swim under this pillar at the right angle, you can actually clip out of bounds. So we call minute here just so that we can stay in this position to clip through and not waste any air. Then we can do some Iron Boots pumping to kind of move ourselves to the loading zone. And we now did Pillar Clip and we're now in Lake Bed early. So one thing as well for Lake Bed that since we do have the Master Sword early, normally you would have to swim through that tunnel all the way to the first part of the first room in the temple. We don't have enough air for that. We don't have Zora armor. So we can't do that. So what we're going to do here is actually going to save warp. And since we have Master Sword, it puts us at the first room already, which is really convenient. Alright, so what we're going to do here is we're actually going to kind of continue normal for a little bit. Instead of using bombs, we're actually going to use some LJAs here. So if I position myself in a certain area, target that, do an LJA, jump up here. We could do a specific LJA here that lets me go up faster if I get it. Nice. And then we'll kind of continue on normal for a little bit. So here, I'm going to do a setup. I'm going to roll twice and then side hop. If I target these two spots specifically, they count as being on a floor higher than Link. So I can get 2 long jump attacks, which lets me do this cool double LJA that lets me grab this switch early. And then we're going to go ahead and grab Uku here. Uku is kind of like the really weird looking bird person thing, or man chicken, that actually lets you warp out of a dungeon, which is really convenient for us right now. So we're just gonna dive here, break Link's neck, and then roll over to this from over here. So we're gonna have one side effect actually happen once we enter this mini boss room coming up. From our back in time shenanigans earlier. So before that though, we're gonna do another LJA. If I target in this specific spot, it gives me a long jump attack. That one does suck if you miss it though. So this is the exit room for the mini boss, Deku Toad, of this dungeon. So if you were to enter this normally casually, you can't do anything since it's not the correct entrance. But we have some leftover boss flags earlier from back in time, so we can just look up and it activates the mini boss fight. And here, since we do have Master Sword, we can actually one cycle this mini boss as well, but it's very specific. It's a bit precise, not too difficult, but kind of difficult. So here, if I see up after the frog goes up, the frog will come down faster, and then I have to do these time slashes. Perfect. If you get a full combo there, that's bad, because then it wastes a whole nother cycle, which is about like 30-ish seconds. So it's really nice to actually get a full combo there. And to go back to the D3 side, D3 is actually doing early Elden, which is kind of a weird reroute. Doesn't lose too much time. But But I guess D3 just kind of wanted to do a different route since he had missed Scourge Void. Alright, so after getting Boss Shot here, I'm going to equip Uku and then save warp. That's just going to bring me to the back to the beginning of the dungeon. And then after that, we're going to warp out of here and then continue on with Elden Twilight. Or not Elden, but Linear Twilight. So here, we're just going to warp out very conveniently since we cannot swim through the whole water passage because we would drown before we reach the exit. So very handy that this is in the game. And then here, we're going to break Link's neck again after I equip Iron Boots. And then we'll transform into Wolf because movement is faster with Wolf. And we're going to be actually approaching a trick that could crash the game if done incorrectly. We're going to talk to Fire here, and he's going to start the cutscene about how there's no water and stuff, which will activate the cutscene of the Shadow Boblin over here. And this Shadow Boblin has a Kargarok that it'll fly on. And there's a couple ways to actually defeat this. You can do it the normal way by waiting 2 cycles. There's a quick 1 cycle you can do, and then there's a quick kill with water, which is what we're going to be doing. So I'm going to run over here to the water, position myself a certain way so I'm able to transform. Target the Kargarok and wait for the Kargarok to come back. Because I do need it to come to the water here. Then once it gets close enough, I'm gonna get in the water, put my Iron Boots on, go start sinking down enough to where the Boblin will actually touch the water. And since most enemies that touch the water in this game will actually die instantly, so it's just very handy. If done incorrectly, though, you actually can crash your game. So if you get grabbed and killed Boblin at the same time, the game will crash since it's trying to do 2 cutscenes at the same time. And as well, there is a trick here called Kargarok Clip that saves about 6 seconds, I believe. In my opinion, it's not worth it for me right now, especially in a race setting, because it wastes time if you do fail it. You have a chance of dying. So in my opinion, it's not really worth it. And then D3 is about to finish up Elden Twilight here, since he is doing kind of a weird reroute. And yeah, so we're just gonna fly up through this passage and then get to Zora's Domain early. And here I get another chance of actually doing a Minitech skip. Nice. That's after a cutscene, you do have a 1 frame as well before the text to actually do an input, so we can just skip that Minitext there. So what we're going to do here is we're just going to kind of continue this normally. We're going to go up to Zora's Domain and get the warp portal, which will just save time in general, not having to do like some backtracking. And this specific minute jump right here is the only Minitext in the game that you can't do a 1 frame jump, like I said earlier. For some reason, that one is coded correctly where you can't do a 1 frame jump in between the text. Alright, so here we're just going to kill the Shadow Beast, and then we're actually going to warp back to Kakariko, since we do have the warp portal. Alright, so now since we did do Gorge Void earlier, we can just warp straight back here and get started with Elden Twilight. So we're going to grab the vessel here, and we do unfortunately have to do Elden Twilight. The only reason we do Elden Twilight is because the meteor that we need, or the fire rock that we need to melt Zora's Domain, only spawns in Death Mountain after the Twilight is completed, unfortunately. So that's the only reason we have to do it. We can't skip Lanayru Twilight either, because Lanayru kind of has a lot of things that need to be done, and it needs to be in the correct state, so having it in Twilight kind of doesn't make things work out. So right there, I just clipped through the top of the well so I could skip some cutscenes from going the normal way. Here, I'm going to try and get a quick kill on all 3 of these bugs. So I did miss one, but I got 2 other ones, so not too shabby. D3 actually accidentally jumped into Lake Hylia as a wolf, which is kind of bad because you have to do it as human to do a pillar clip. I should mention as well, D3 is an HD runner, so he gets confused sometimes, especially since he was doing HD before this race. So, you know, obviously sometimes he gets confused on certain things, so he'll do like HD stuff when we're not playing HD and stuff like that. And so D3 is doing pillar clip, and it looks like it should clip through. Yeah, so D3 is pretty much doing the same thing we did earlier. And then here, we're just gonna kind of do some normal movement stuff here. Elden Twilight's pretty much a lot of movement except for a couple of good tricks. Yeah, just kind of gonna collect all the bugs here, unfortunately, since we do have to collect them all. One cool thing about, unfortunately I didn't get it there, but one cool thing about like Ruby text and stuff like that, if you side hop or backflip and you're in the air long enough, you can actually skip some text, so it just saves some time. Here we can do some quick movement if done correctly. Unfortunately, I don't believe I got it. Yeah, so you can do some quick movement there, and a bonk into a loading zone, which is really nice. So right here on my side, we're actually going to be doing something called Bomb House Skip. There's 2 methods to it. There's human setup and then there's wolf setup. Wolf setup is technically faster, but it is harder. Human setup is pretty free. We're just gonna go to a certain position, target here, and do some LJAs. Jump up here, transform into wolf, and then we're gonna kill the bug before it enters the house. Which, if you do that, it spawns the other layer of the house, which lets us collect the tears. As you can tell, it's kind of finicky because there's 2 layers of the house at the same time. So that kind of makes everything a little weird. But yeah, saves about 30 to 45 seconds depending on... I don't remember the exact timing. But yeah, saves time. Pretty cool trick. Right now, what I'll be doing as well is I won't be speaking unless there's some like major tricks involved, just because my voice is actually dying right now from speaking all day. I actually did get really good RNG here. I got a lot of 5 rupees, which is really nice. So D3 is kind of just going through what we did earlier. He's just doing it slightly different because I should mention D3 is actually doing a slightly different route than I am. I'm doing the no Zor Armor route, and D3 will be doing the Zor Armor route. So you'll see some differences there after after Lanayru Twilight. So pretty much here what we're doing in Elden Twilight is we're just kind of finishing it up. We have to collect all the tears, unfortunately, since we do need the state of Death Mountain to be post-Twilight. So yeah, this game can really troll you a lot in a lot of aspects, unfortunately. If I could pick up the tier. There we go. So that's Elden Twilight. We had to do all that just for Meteor Rock, which would help us continue the Lanayru Twilight. So there I got a one-framer that saves no time, but it breaks Mallow's neck, which is kind of funny. And now we're going to warp to Death Mountain just to get that Fire Rock or the Meteor. And then we'll just transform into human here because we actually are going to do a skip. We have a chance of doing a side hop skip and then as well as skipping another cutscene as well. And unfortunately, I didn't catch that, but D3 on the right actually did mess up on the Kargrok flight. So he is wasting a little bit of time, unfortunately. Alright, so here we have a chance of doing a side hop. It's a one-framer as well. It does save, like, what, 3 seconds, I believe? Yeah, so we did get a side hop. We're going to put on iron boots and go under the water and under the, kind of like the bridge there. Because there is a cutscene there that will actually, it's the queen, I believe, of the Zoras. And that wastes about 30 seconds if you do activate it. So we save some time. And if we look on the right, D3 is actually did the Kargarok clip, which saves about 6 seconds. I just find it a little precise, so I don't go for it. So now we're gonna grab the Lanayru Vessel, which is the Lanayru Twilight is the longest Twilight section. This game's early game is very annoying / tough. After Lanayru Twilight, things start to lighten up because it's more of doing normal stuff. But we have to do at least the first two Twilights out of the 3. This also is the longest Twilight section because we have to go all the way out of our way to Castletown to grab one bug. One thing to mention as well, the Shadow Beast AI in this game are really, really, really bad sometimes. They're almost as bad as goats, where you will be standing right in front of them and they don't acknowledge your existence, and it can really screw you over. Oh yeah, that wasn't a bad fight at all. We're just gonna continue normal, grab the rest of the bugs, and kind of just continue through the rest of the Twilight. I will say more things once we approach those tricks. So right here, after killing this bug, we're actually going to transform back into human just because, one, we're going to do a trick that requires us to be human, and two, we do want to continue skipping that cutscene with the Queen Zora, so we don't want to activate that. Here, what I'm going to attempt to do is something called Waterfall Side Hop. If I buffer at a specific time, I can possibly jump off the waterfall here and land on either the lower floor like I did or the higher floor. The higher floor is what you prefer, since it puts you right to where you need to be. It's kind of a precise trick. That was an early frame, as you saw. Perfect frame would be later in the jump, and would actually get you to the top floor here instead. So yeah, then we're just going to continue normal. We're going to approach lily pad bugs, which unfortunately is really bad, in my opinion. Lily pad bugs is like RNG in position, and it's just a crap show. And I got a jump attack for some reason that didn't target the guy, so yeah, it's not the best design ever. But yeah, that's over, so we're just gonna continue normal. I'll start mentioning anything again once any specific tricks comes up. But the rest of it is kind of just movement based until we get to the boss fight. Another thing as well, like I mentioned earlier, this game on GameCube likes to lag a lot. So in this part of Hyrule Field, when the Twilight, and I guess in this specific layer, the game will lag a lot if we don't turn the camera down. So we'll turn the camera to face down just to reduce the lag in this area. It is kind of hard to tell through recordings, but this area does lag a lot if we have the camera normal. So this is one of the major reasons why Linear Twilight takes so long. We have to come all the way to Castletown to get a warp portal and then a bug as well. And then, like I said earlier, the Shadow Beast AI is kind of whack sometimes, so we gotta be careful. You'll see D3 here. Instead of doing waterfall side hop, he'll actually attempt to move his way over to the side and just kind of fall down instead of doing a waterfall side hop. It does lose time over waterfall side hop, but it's generally safer. One thing to mention, you'll see on my side, I'll actually be doing a dash cancel. So I'll dash and then attack, which will cancel my dash and reset it. That movement is just faster in Hyrule Castletown, just because Wolf Link's movement speed is so slow. It's just faster to do dash cancels. One thing as a difference right here, you'll see actually D3 go to the Howling Stone to actually do this song. I will actually approach this Howling Stone later, but D3 is doing it now since for Zorma route you don't come back down this area, so it's just faster to do it now. So for here, we're just grabbing all the bugs here, and we're just gonna bonk on the wall, which is going to respawn us back at Lake Hylia in a very specific spot, which happens to be by the last bug we need. So very convenient. And then now we're going to be approaching the boss bug, which is the boss of Linear Twilight, pretty much. There are a couple tricks to this that I will try to explain during this fight. Alright, so first thing. One thing that can happen is if you're too low, like if the bug is too low to the platform, you actually will get pushed off the bug and it'll waste a whole like turn of an attack. What we can do here to try and manipulate the position is to pretty much go to the opposite side that you get flown off of and face your camera in a certain way. That'll manipulate the bug to go a certain way, and then you can just do a quick attack like that, which saves a decent amount of time. We can attack it before it, right as it ends its kind of rage, and be able to attack it earlier. And then here what we can do is we can actually do like an animation cancel if climbing the bug is very hard, by the way. So if we target a specific spot, we can just bonk and it'll skip the whole cutscene of going to every leg and killing every leg. And then that is the last tier for Linear Twilight. So we are now done with Linear Twilight, which means we can actually start getting to the more interesting stuff. So right after this, what we're going to do is we're actually going to warp to Zora's Domain. Excuse me. Warp to Zora's Domain and then go down to Izza, which is the person that will very conveniently give us a temporary bomb bag. And I'll kind of go more in depth into that once we get to it. One thing to mention here, if you jump off at a certain either position or angle, you actually can void out here for no apparent reason. Me and my buddies call it the Sloth Void since he was the first one to get it out of our group. I don't think it has a very specific name, but we just call it the Sloth Void since one of our buddies who was a runner got it first out of our friend group, so that's why we call it the Sloth Void. So we're going to approach here right now the Howling Stone that D3 was at earlier. The only reason we're going to it now is because we have to go down here anyway, so we might as well do it here now. D3's route for Zorama route, you don't come back down here after Linear Twilight, so that's why he did it earlier. Alright, so we did this Howling Stone, which is actually going to give us a wolf right in front of Hyrule Castle. And I'll kind of explain more why we're doing that later. Because it is really important that we go to that wolf. If we don't, we actually won't be able to finish the game, but I will explain more on that later. So here, we're just going to kill the Shadow Beast, and then Izza's actually going to take us into her cabin to give us bombs, because she wants to. Casually, you would use the, I believe it's bow and arrow, to break all the boulders and everything. It might be boomerang and bombs, but I don't remember. Or like the bow and arrow and bombs, but here, she's going to give us a temporary bomb bag to kind of blow up everything. And since we do have Uku, we can kind of just drop a bomb for her as a thanks, and then just kind of warp out of here. So if you do leave this room normally, she takes away the bomb bag, and you just go back to whatever items you had before. But since we Uku warp out of there, we still have it, so we're able to use it. So we're just going to pollute the earth here and kind of just waste all these bombs here. And the only reason we're wasting all these bombs here is because we can't switch our bomb types unless we have an empty bomb bag. So we have to get rid of all of our regular bombs in order to get a new batch of water bombs. So that's what we're doing here, just kind of wasting all our bombs. If you do happen to grab any water bombs while you still have regular bombs left, it's kind of a rip because you will pretty much have wasted all your water bombs because they will be regular bombs. So now we're just going to warp out, and we're going to warp back up to actually get a real bomb bag. Because the bomb bag we have now is temporary. If we save or die, that bomb bag goes away forever. So we actually need to get a legit bomb bag to keep with us. And right there, I just got a one-framer that does absolutely nothing but look funny. Yeah, so back to the bomb bag thing. Okay, so actually coming up, this is the reason that German saves about 6 seconds over the US version because of this text right here that you'll see. So normally when you get an item, like an actual like key item, the game will take its time and read through the text slowly and you can't skip anything. Well, the German developers for the text here actually didn't, for some reason for this one, didn't put that on there. So we can actually just mash through it and just be done. That's it. That's one of the big differences. So now we have a real bomb bag, and we're actually going to go down to Snow Peak, which we're going to do a trick there. But I do want to kind of go over to D3 side. We're actually going to Castle Town on his side, because he is doing the Zorma route. So that requires him to do the King Bulblin 2 fight, or skip the King Bulblin 2 fight, and then get the Zor armor from Queen Rutella, I believe is her name. So he's kind of gonna go to Thelma's Bar to actually start the sequence. While we're gonna go to Snow Peak and do a glitch called Map Glitch. So this is the glitch that is exclusively patched on the Japanese version. What this trick does is if we call Midna and try to warp away on the same frame, it'll actually interrupt the warp, which disables all loading zones on the map. So that means on the way up here, usually you would need the Reekfish scent to kind of guide your way through the snow and everything. But since we disabled loading zones, we can't void out. So we can just kind of run through everything without getting sent back to the beginning, which is really cool. It's kind of hard to balance between the two, but what D3 did there is he actually did the King Bulblin 2 skip. So we don't have the bow and arrow, so we can't fight King Bulblin 2. But with a precise opponent position, you can actually clip out of bounds, void out by the bridge, which brings you to the aftermath of fighting King Bulblin 2, which... how do I explain it? Which gives you the keys and pretty much says you beat King Bulblin 2 for some reason. Works out, which is really nice, but... it's one of the main differences in the routes here, so... back to my side, I did say loading zones are disabled, so if we were to continue through normally, we would actually soft lock. So we need to re-enable all loading zones here, and what we're gonna do, how we're gonna do that is we're actually going to go into this Howling Stone, which is a forced load, no matter what. It will load no matter what, even if loading zones are disabled. So we'll just go back out of it since we don't need the song. And now everything's back to normal, so we can now go through loading zones and stuff. I do want to pay attention to the right side of D3 because he's actually going to be doing a really cool trick. It's very scary and very precise after he kills this Kargarok here. I'm just going to keep going through the tunnel like normal and do some minor things, but I don't want to miss D3's actual really cool trick here. So D3 is going to do something called an Epona slide, where he's going to slide across the whole gap of the void, which is really, really cool. And how that works is when you're on Epona, when you're getting off Epona, Epona doesn't check for collision, like if you should be falling down or not. So if you start, so what an Epona slide is, let me start with that. It's two one-framers that let you get off Epona but keep your momentum. And if you do that over the void, Epona won't check for collision, so you can actually slide across the whole gorge in one take and actually skip not having the bridge there. Then you can just do an LJ over and kind of just skip pretty much the rest of the sequence. Coming back to my side, I did something called a messenger skip, which means we skipped the fight with the Shadow Beast and ended up just respawning back up here. By skipping that, though, it does not clear up the fog, which means we get to do blind snowboarding, which is kind of fun, but kind of not fun. That means nothing is going to clear up, so we're kind of blind for the whole way down. So it's kind of annoying, but we make it work. So now D3 is grabbing the Zor armor, which is going to help him for the Morpheal fight. And then one thing to mention as well for snowboarding, when you're in the air falling, that is your fastest movement speed, so that's kind of what we want to keep up. We want to stay in the air as long as we can. just because it does make us move faster. Alright, so now D3 is actually going to Zora's Domain now. Or not Zora's Domain. Well, technically, yeah, but now he's going to go to Snow Peak. So pretty much the same thing we just did, D3 is going to do right now. Alright, so we're approaching Snow Peak. We're definitely doing this way out of order. But we're not going to finish this temple. We're just here for Ball and Chain. And the only reason we're here for Ball and Chain is for something later in the game that we cannot skip. And it specifically requires Ball and Chain, so that's the only reason we're here. So, just gonna do a quick LJ over that void. Grab this claw shot because the floor doesn't exist. Gonna go through here and position myself in a specific area, and then we're gonna target specific spots to get LJAs. So 1 LJ, 2 LJ. Grab this small key. And then we're going to void out just to spawn at the beginning of the room quicker. I am wasting bombs here because we are going to need water bombs, so I need to empty my bomb bag by then. We're going to clip through this floor because why should we acknowledge the laws of physics? And then here, we're actually going to unlock this door from behind because that's how logic works. And then we're actually going to skip this little section here by clipping out of bounds here. So we've tried to position the freezer in a specific area, get frozen. With our invincibility frames, we can be attacked behind the door, and then we can grab the door from behind, which lets us open it for some reason, so really handy. Then here, I'm just going to waste more bombs, and then we're going to start the mini-boss fight. So here, there is actually a 1 cycle here, but it's kind of risky, so I don't really go for it. So I just waste bombs, turn them around, and then we just need to swing at his tail here. And that's the mini-boss. We only come here for the mini-boss for the ball and chain. We do need it for something later in the run. And then here, what we're gonna do, just waste more bombs. We're actually gonna head to this back room here, just to grab some extra rupees. So these guys in the night armors have 100 rupees in them, and we can just grab the 100 rupees and then save warp. And then save warping here is just gonna bring us back to the beginning of the dungeon. But our equips will be messed up just because of that stolen bomb bag from earlier. So I'm going to have to redo my equips here. We're going to waste more bombs. Break this one here and get another 100 rupees. Didn't get the tech skip, unfortunately. And then here we're just going to waste more bombs and then warp back to Lake Bed because now we're actually going to beat Lake Bed Temple. If you've played this game before, you're kind of wondering how I'm going to beat Morpheal if I don't have Zora armor. Well, the very interesting glitch that we can do that I'm going to explain once we get to the Morpheal fight. Really cool. This fight is really cool in a speedrun. Unfortunately, it does have RNG in it, which does suck a lot. So here, I'm just going to waste some of my bombs because we do need to grab water bombs. Since we are going to be underwater, I will need water bombs. So I'm just going to use the water there to waste all my bombs. And then we do have a chest here for, I believe, 10. Yeah. And then we will continue our way to the Morpheal boss fight. One thing I should mention as well, so there's no boss key skips in this game, unfortunately, besides one, since every loading zone is tied to the door animation, unfortunately, so it's not like Wind Waker where you can get behind doors and get to the boss early. That doesn't work in TP. This one specifically, though, is not tied to a door because of how it's set up. So we can do the specific setup to slide out of bounds, backflip, charge our sword to look for a specific visual cue, spin attack, do 3 backflips, turn to the side, and then we can just backflip in. So, Morpheal. Morpheal is also a big run killer, an hour and a half in. So, you're probably wondering how I'm going to beat Morpheal without Zor Armor. As you can see, I have an air meter on the left, and it's probably going to run out before I get down there. So, this is really cool. Unfortunately, it is RNG, because Morpheal is RNG, which really sucks. If she wasn't, that'd be really cool. For this fight here, first, we're going to do a jump spin attack to hit Morpheal's eye. And that skips the whole first phase. And what you see what I'm doing here is I'm actually swimming with water bombs, which you're not allowed to do normally. In order to achieve that, you would have to take out a water bomb, but before it actually comes out of your pocket, if you force unequip iron boots, which is just putting something over your iron boots, you can actually start swimming with water bombs or floating with water bombs. And that's not normally supposed to happen. And it has a really cool side effect that if you throw that water bomb while swimming, it actually refills your air, which is really cool. So here I'm going to do a setup for one bomb, which is risky, but really, really cool. So pretty much letting go as late as possible and getting Morpheal to get as close as you without wasting air. And then what I'm going to do here in the fight is as soon as I get my 4th hit, I'm going to force unequip Iron Boots, which forces me off Morpheal. Then I'm going to re-equip them and grab on again. And I'll do that for the last one as well. And perfect. That is what we call a one bomb, which is really cool and really risky, as you can tell how much air I had left. Most of the time people go for 2 bombs. 2 bombs also great. 1 bomb just really cool and it's just really awesome. But yeah, that's kind of how Morpheal fight works. D3 won't have to worry about that since D3 is actually going to be using Zor Armor, so he doesn't have to worry about that. And this cutscene takes a while, so it is actually a bathroom break cutscene, so be right back. Alright, so D3 is actually now going to Morpheal, while I'm finishing up Morpheal. And I don't need to grab that heart container. During a marathon or a race, it's safer to grab it, but I don't really need to. So yeah, so I finished up Morpheal. We're now heading on to MDH, or Midnight's Desperate Hour. D3 is just doing boss key skip here like I did earlier. And he doesn't have to worry about Morpheal RNG or anything bad since he does have Zor Armor. He doesn't have to worry about his air meter. Which is really handy because Morpheal can kill a lot of runs. The Zor Armor route with Gorge is technically slower, but it's like by like 13 seconds or something. Something around that range. It's not like a huge difference. So on my side, we're doing Midnight's Desperate Hour, so unfortunately Midna's dying, so we have to go save her. I will turn up the volume here, actually. So we're just gonna continue to Castle Town. Kind of just do everything normally as we do in a casual playthrough. D3 is fighting Morpheal now. And D3 doesn't have to worry about anything since he does have Zor armor, like I said. Then I'll be going through Castle Town again with our sad music. I'm doing some dash cancel since that is the fastest way of movement. Yeah, D3 is just swimming on up since he doesn't have to worry about his air meter. And D3 is going for the one bomb strat, but he doesn't have to worry about his air. Nice. That was a really good Morpheal on D3's part. So yeah, D3's done with Morpheal, and then we're just continuing on normal here with Minda's Desperate Hour. There isn't really much to explain. There will be a couple things, but I'll mention that when they come up. So, something to mention here, I don't know why I threw that, by the way. I was throwing, apparently. Literally. So, since we actually can transform into human right now, we can actually not have to carry that stick all the way over here. We can just climb over here. Transform into human, use our lantern. If I could equip it. And then just transform back into wolf. It's just faster to do it that way. And then here, we're going to try and do a quick kill. So we're going to spin attack or B attack this arrow out of the way, and then jump attack Hugo. Unfortunately, Hugo did not fall off. Generally, what you want to do is have Hugo hit the water, and Hugo will instantly die. But unfortunately, that did not happen, so we're just going to make our way up the tower here. There's a couple of cool things we can do here, but we'll see if I get them. So this is the same area from earlier in the game, but unfortunately Minda is not able to let us do Minda jumps, so we actually have to climb our way all the way up here. So, some cool LJs we can do here. If done correctly, we can just save some time. And then now we're approaching something that has a very tight window. It was kind of precise. So we have to keep running and not get hit by this arrow, and we need to keep up our momentum all the way so we can make the bridge cycle that's coming up here. So the wind is blowing back, which obviously slows us down. So we need to keep our momentum up to actually make it to this bridge cycle. We can barely make it without having to waste any time. Very nice. What can happen on that bridge actually is really funny. You can get brawl tripping, is what we like to call it, where you can just randomly trip and fall and on that bridge and void out, which does waste time. But yeah, so that's pretty much it for Minas Desperate Hour. Now, the barrier's up in Hyrule, and then now we have to do the second half of the run, or the second half of the game, pretty much. So, now I get to talk more about why we did that Howling Stone earlier. So, we need a hidden skill to beat the game. And the one we need is Ending Blow. That is the first one you learn right before Forest Temple. But, if you saw earlier, we didn't learn that. And we kind of need that to beat the game. Since we never finished Fair and Twilight, we never got that. So, thankfully, no matter which wolf you enter first, it will always be Ending Blow, no matter what. After that, it'll depend, obviously, to which one you go to. But always for the first one, it'll be Ending Blow. So that's very convenient for us. We don't have to do Fair and Twilight, and we can just get Ending Blow right here. This is needed to beat the game, because the way Ganon is programmed for the final fight, you need Ending Blow to finish, to pretty much do the Ending Blow on Ganon. Or as we like to call it, Fangstab in German. I probably butchered that so hard, but... So yep, that's Ending Blow, and then we pretty much have what we need to beat the game besides the required dungeons, the rest of the required dungeons. So yeah, the next thing we're going to do is we're actually going to head over to Arbiter's Grounds. Normally, this part of the game, you would actually get Master Sword, but we already have that, so we can just go straight to Lake Hylia. What we're going to do here is we're going to get the letter to actually get to the desert, and then from the desert we'll actually head over to Arbiter's Grounds. There's not too much here to talk about, but I will mention whenever there is. One thing that's interesting, but not really, I guess, speedrun related, if you turn your camera here, like this, you will get a very good view of Link's face. But, after a while, you also get a very good view of crotch cam. Nice. Yeah, nothing really important, it's just a funny effect. So now we have the letter and we can just transform back to Wolf, actually go down to Fire, and he'll actually shoot us to the desert, which is where we want to go next. So here, I'm gonna stop at a specific area just to be able to transform, because if I don't transform, then that bird that's to the left of me will actually start talking to me, and that's just a time waste. So we're gonna get Fire the letter, and that's gonna let us go to the desert. So, one thing about the desert here. It is laggy as heck on the GameCube version. So, once again, we're going to turn our camera down just to do some lag reduction. Unfortunately, there's a lot of areas that lag in this game. But it's still pretty good. This game looks amazing for how old it is. So yeah, we're just going to run to the end of the desert and move on to the next area. Nothing really to talk about here. So here, since we have bond chain, actually, just very conveniently, we can just break that. And then right over here, we can actually just clip through this because it's not flush with the wall. Just by rolling either as wolf or human, we can just clip through. And then here, we're going to be doing another iteration of map glitch. So after this cutscene, I forgot to mention as well, we can actually, so it is frame perfect getting map glitch, so if you fail it, you actually do warp away. So I did fail to mention that we actually can unplug our controller, hold the two buttons we want to hit on the same frame, and actually plug our controller back in, which will then input it on the same frame, so we don't have to worry about messing it up. So we disabled all loading zones here. I'm gonna try and do an LJA specifically to get out of bounds here. Very good. And then since there's no loading zones, we're just gonna jump off the edge here at a certain angle and wait. And the trigger for this King Bulblin fight actually extends up and down all the way, so we can just go right under it and then just fight King Bulblin. Very easy fight. And then D3 right now is actually just doing pretty much the same thing that we were doing before. I will say though, one thing, D3 is stuck with Zor Armor the rest of the run. He cannot switch back to the hero's tunic with the green tunic because we never technically got that tunic. It's not in our inventory. Next time he pauses or either of us pause, you'll see we don't have it in our inventory. So we technically can't switch back. So D3 has to wear that for the rest of the run. And that can mean, so when you're wearing Zor Armor, you actually take a humongous amount of like damage from fire. And I believe ice as well. So D3 has to be very careful around certain enemies. Or else he will most likely die. Alright, so I'm now entering Arbiter's Grounds, which, in my opinion, is a cool dungeon, but it sucks in a speed run. So this first room, we're just gonna do some equips here. We're just gonna claw shot our way over here, and then we gotta do a very specific roll on the sand. I'm actually gonna grab this heart. We gotta do a very specific roll on the sand so that we don't void out. Very good. Then we're just gonna grab this lever and continue normal. So this next trick that's actually coming up, we need to have a decent amount of health. Just because if Link is slouching when he's like really low on health, the trick actually won't work. So it either makes it not work or it makes it very impossible to work. So it's better to just grab health. So, an honorable mention here is, there actually is a skip for this gate, but it takes around 16 or 18 hours to actually do, so that's kind of why we don't do it in any percent. Low percent actually skips this gate by doing a rupee slide, and what a rupee slide is grabbing a rupee right next to the actual gate and waiting about 18 hours for Link to kind of slowly inch through the gate, ignoring all collision. So yeah, I just thought it was an honorable mention. Here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to equip Boomerang and Bombs. I'm going to throw a bomb over here to distract the enemies here. I'm going to try to do a kind of precise trick called Put 1 Skip. And if done correctly, I'll grab this ledge, and we can skip pretty much the first Poe in the room. So we only need to grab 3 out of the 4 pos to actually open the gate, since that's all the game checks for. You'll see that a couple times in this game. Like, we only beat Lakebed Temple, which is the 3rd temple out of the first 3. But it still gave us the full thing, since the game assumes you can't get to there without actually beating the first 2. So that's how that works, and it works for the temples, and then we'll see as well for the mirror shards. So here, we're actually approaching Po 4 room. This is the last Po you're technically supposed to get casually. But we can just get to it early and grab the scent. We will need the scent to progress through the rest of the dungeon, though, so that's why we need to grab it. So here, we're just going to grab the scent and continue our way back to the main room. We will be unlocking the shortcut, though, just so that we don't have to do Po 1 skip again. It just saves time, and it's a lot easier. So we got to push this block at least 4 times, just so it remembers its position, and then I will grab this rupee here. Since I did forget to mention, we will need 300 rupees by the end of this dungeon, so we can rebuild the city and the sky cannon. Since that does require 300 rupees. So that digging spot right there, we actually need, that's why we need the poscent, because without the poscent, we actually couldn't even progress to this part. So here, we're kind of just progressing kind of, not really, I would say, normal, but kind of normal. We're gonna grab the rupee from this reded here and make our way up top. Just to grab, we're pretty much grabbing the rest of the post souls that we need. And unfortunately, I did get screwed over by the Po being out of bounds. So that did mess me up, which did waste a little bit of time, but it's not too much time. We can just re-grab it right here. So here we're just going to be backtracking to go up to the top room here, since we did unlock the shortcut already. So we're gonna be doing something really weird. Like we did it earlier in Snow Peak. But we're actually gonna be unlocking this door from behind. So, which is really cool that it works. Thankfully, or else we wouldn't be able to do that. And then here, we're just gonna target this Redead and some of these skeleton boys. Kill this Redead and then dig up this switch here, or this lever. And then we're just gonna kill this last postal that we need. And that room actually went very well. It actually could be really trolly, unfortunately. But yeah, that's pretty much all we need to actually open the gate. So now we can just head back to the gate and continue on with the rest of the dungeon. So as you see, we only got 3 out of the 4, but it only checks for the last 3, so we're able to just skip the first one. Alright, so now for the second half of the dungeon, it's gonna be very difficult and totally not very easy right here. We're just gonna attack over this edge right here, and yeah, I guess that's just how easy it is. We're gonna grab the boss key real quick. And we're pretty much gonna be doing everything backwards since we can just do that. There is a strat here that we can do that is in the tasks for this game, but I don't believe I got it this run. Yeah. Saves about 3-4 seconds, possibly. Not too sure on it since it is kind of new. Well, at least newly timed. Unfortunately, I did have bad movement here. So, please ignore my movement. D3 is just kind of going through the same thing we're doing. As Wolf, if we just attacked through the sand, we can't drown, so. Happy birthday. We're just gonna drop that for him. Unfortunately, I did not get a roll, so I'm trolling. So we can drop bombs here to do a faster strat instead of using ball and chain. But unfortunately, my movement is really bad. Yeah, like, my movement is absolutely very bad. Right here. But it is a race, so unfortunately we have to keep going with it. We can claw shot here. Get these roaches off us. And then head over. So now we're heading to Death Sword. And this mini-boss, we can actually skip this mini-boss, but it is kind of precise. And it's also partly RNG, so... I don't believe I got it this run due to RNG, but... maybe possibly we can get it in an actual ESA run. So here we can get ourselves into a position where we can just claw shot Death Sword, which will make Death Sword go around. And unfortunately, it is RNG which way Death Sword spins. So unfortunately, we got bad RNG. So I have to do we can do a fast strat. Yeah, so that's the fast strat we can do. Optimally, you want to Death Sword skip, which skips the whole fight. But unfortunately, due to RNG, it's just faster to go ahead and... it's faster and safer to just actually do the fight. So yeah, that was Death Sword, and then now we can actually grab our spinner, which we will need for the boss and the rest of the dungeon. Alright, so now that we have a spinner, we can actually just save warp out of here. Actually equip it, then save warp out of here. That'll put us at the beginning of the dungeon, and then we can kind of just roll through the rest of the dungeon, because we're pretty... Arbiter's Grounds is a weird dungeon. Usually you do like the first half of the dungeon, then you get the dungeon item, and then you do the second half of the dungeon. Arbiter's Grounds is really weird. You kind of do the whole dungeon, get the item that you need, and then, like, do the boss. That's it. Yeah, we're just gonna be making our way through here back to where we were. And then now we're just gonna progress to the boss room. For some reason, I decided to come over here because I had a brain fart, which I'm not supposed to be doing. I'm supposed to be doing the spinner here. So yeah, D3 is finishing up the first part of Arbiter's Grounds. Unfortunately, he is a decent amount of time behind just because of a bunch of things that went wrong. But he's not too far behind at all. So we are approaching Stallard now. And Stallard is a RNG boss in the first half, and then not really anything in the second half. There is actually a way to skip this fight. Stallard, it's called Stallard Skip, and it is done in the task, and one person has done it, RTA. Doshu, he's never done it in a run, I believe, but they've done it just in general, like as in practice. So here, pretty much, it's just 3 hits on the spine here. You actually can soft lock in this fight, but it's very rare. So that was actually very good. Unfortunately, I did get kind of trolled here, but we didn't waste too much time. So yeah, that's pretty much it for Stallard first phase. It's just kind of a little bit RNG heavy, and it's not too difficult at all. So now we're approaching second phase, which actually can be done very quickly if done correctly. So we can actually, if we time our rolls correctly and time our spinner attack, or our spinner equip, we can actually knock down Stallard very early, called our early knockdown. And then we can hit Stallard on the way up, so we don't have to go all the way up the fight. And then we can just do jump spin attacks here. And we can just one cycle since Stallard does get hit 3 times per swing, or per spin attack. And that's really it. That's all of Arbiter's Grounds. Now we've unlocked the mirror chamber. And we can continue on to the next dungeon. I believe normally the next dungeon would be Snow Peak, but we're not going to do that because why would we do that? This is a speedrun. So once again, I don't need to grab this heart. Possibly in a marathon I would grab it just to be extra safe, but we don't really need it in a speedrun. Now we can actually go up to the top and get the warp portal to warp back here. So here, we can just do a quick jump spin attack, roll stab here. Just kind of some good movement to kill all the shadow beasts pretty fast. And then now, normally you would actually have to go up that spinner thing to activate a cutscene, but we can just zoom into the map, apparently, and warp away. So, we don't have to do that. We're going to warp back to Kakariko, since normally you would do, I believe, Snow Peak, but this is a speedrun, so we're not going to do that. We have an exploit here, or I guess a skip that we can do, that actually lets us get to City in the Sky very early. It saves a huge amount of time. It saves all the side quest stuff. So it saves doing Temple of Time, at least getting the Dominion Rod. I think you have to actually beat Temple of Time. Saves all the Ilia quest, Hidden Village. It saves a lot of time. So here, unfortunately I did mess it up first try, but if we angle ourselves and transform at a certain time, we can actually flip through this, like, pillar here and just get to the cannon really early. So, unfortunately, we can't just warp here. This is why we need map warping. We can just zoom in on the map here and just teleport the cannon away. Just a slight oversight from the developers. So yeah, so we did get the cannon early now, so now we have 300 rupees. We're just gonna actually rebuild the cannon. And skip, pretty much. So we're skipping all of Temple of Time, and we're skipping part of Snow Peak, since we did technically do half of Snow Peak. But we're skipping pretty much a dungeon and a half. And a bunch of side quests. So yeah, 300 rupees, we get our cannon rebuilt, and we can actually head to City in the Sky early, which is really nice, to be honest, or else this speedrun would be way longer. I never mentioned, this is, as of right now, before Skyward Sword HD. We don't even know for Skyward Sword HD. This is technically, I believe, the longest Zelda any percent. Out of all of them. It used to be Skyward Sword, but then Back in Time shenanigans were found, and now it's pretty short. So now we're in City. City is a really cool dungeon, in my opinion, in a speedrun. There is a lot of LJAs, there's a lot of cool things, in my opinion. You'll see a couple right as we get to the next area here. So, City in the Sky is full of voids. So, pretty much that's just like LJ Heaven with the boomerang. I did want to mention, unfortunately, it looks like D3 did mess up early Stallard, so he had to try and do a backup here to save some time. It's kind of hard to juggle in between both of these right now. This is why it's better with 2 commentators. Alright, so, like I said, LJA's all over the place, so we're just gonna bounce off that wall, do that. Bounce off this thing, and jump attack. And then here, we're gonna position ourselves in a very specific spot. Transform into Wolf Link to skip activating the fan in the next room. So how this works, there's a trigger right in front of the door that actually turns on the fan in this room so that you can't get to the boss key early. But if we transform into Wolf, it only counts you as touching the trigger if Wolf Link's back feet touch it. So if we just inch forward, we can actually skip touching that trigger at all and actually never turn on the fan. And then here, right before it's about to complete, we can actually get off and do a roll just to save some time. And then here, we're gonna go grab the small key because we will need it for the next area to continue on. And this area is pretty simple. We're just gonna go grab the hook shot, or a claw shot here, and just grab the small key. And then, as soon as we get back outside, we're actually gonna do a cool little cutscene skip, which will really help out the run. It's really cool because it not only saves time, but it also changes your respawn position after you save. So it's really cool. So depending on the wind cycle here, there's 2 methods of doing it. I did get a good wind cycle, so all I'm gonna do is grab this P hat, position myself in a certain position, then let go and jump slash, which will let me skip the cutscene that would normally play right there. So skipping that cutscene saves time and changes my save position. So yeah, for this next area, there is a City in the Sky small key skip, but that is task only. No one has actually done it RTA as of right now. That's why we go get that small key from earlier. Doshu, the same guy who did Stallard skip, actually has been working on City in the Sky small key skip RTA, but has gotten very close, but has not yet succeeded. It is very draining on your body. Maybe not body, but like mind. But yeah, so we're just gonna grab the small key. Just better, honestly, to just grab the small key. And then we'll proceed to the next area. Here, we're just gonna LJ over, where we literally do a lot of LJs in this next area. So we'll do an LJ here, another LJ here. I'm gonna kill this Keese just so it doesn't bother me. And then I get to do a cool double LJ here, which is really cool. Very scary though. Then there's a 1 framer right there, and that just gets me forward a little more. Then we can just do a quick spin here, which kills both of them. Very poorly planned by the developers, I guess. Then we can just climb up here, kind of progress normally until we reach the next room. Then here, we're actually going to skip turning on one of the air things, the air ducts, by ledge grabbing this area right here. It's kind of specific, not too specific though. Here, we're gonna do a cool jump, or drop, I guess. It saves a couple seconds, and it looks really cool. Does waste 2 hearts though, unfortunately. The other way that you'll see D3 actually do it will be just grabbing the Uku and falling down with Iron Boots. So this trick that's coming up right now is actually, it's not too difficult. It is pixel perfect, to be honest. So it's kind of hard, but most of the time it's not too hard. But lately, for some reason, I've just been having trouble with this trick, and I don't know why. So I do 4 slashes, and then I get into position, and then I just aim for a certain pixel. And we're able to skip the whole fight here and just grab the double claw shots, which is really cool. So yeah, it beats having to do that whole fight, which can last a long time. So we'll go ahead and save here. Save warping will put us back to, not the beginning of the dungeon, but somewhere different. So yeah, so it's actually going to bring us to the small key here, the small key chest. Since we never watched that cutscene we skipped earlier, it just changes our respawn position right there for some reason. So that's really cool. It's the only dungeon that I know of that does it. So that's actually really cool that does it. And it saves time. We don't have to worry about touching the fan again. So we're just going to continue back into this room and actually go. Now we're going to get the boss key. And since we skipped that fan trigger earlier, we can actually just, instead of going all the way around, we can just claw shot up here. And then we pretty much go the back way. And since this fan's not on, we can just claw shot all the way up here and proceed normal. Well, as normal as you can get. We will then get into a pretty okay position to grab up here barely. Go to this edge and target somewhere to do an LJA right above the door, and then we can just grab the boss key. This, by the way, this room is the laggiest room in the entire game. Don't know why it lags so much, but it only happens on GameCube because GameCube power. And now we get to continue on with the rest of the dungeon and get up to our Grug fight. And then what we're going to do here is we're actually going to get high enough and claw shot to the very top of these grates here. And that lets us grab the ledge on top. And it lets us actually skip turning on all these fans by doing some LJs here. And we can just literally skip everything right there. So it saves a chunk of time as well. And then here's the fan room. This is just kind of like the final gauntlet to the boss room. One way to bring up the claw shot faster when you're hanging off like a wall or something like that. If you double tap the claw shot, it actually brings it out faster than if you were just to do it normally. That's one thing I forgot to mention as well. When you see up, when you're on the ground, if you see up and use an item, like right here, it actually brings it out way faster than if you were to just hold the item out. There's a couple minor things I keep forgetting here. But if I'm fast enough here, I can actually grab onto this one, which I did. Very nice. And then now we're approaching the Argarok fight, which is kind of cool. Then here, if we position ourselves in a certain position, we can actually get pretty high up on the vines here, because climbing in SD is really slow, so we try to get as high as we can. Alright, so Argarok fight. For first phase, we can actually hang on this pillar here, or just hang out by the pillar. You don't have to actually claw shot onto the pillar. I just claw shot onto the pillar because just time to rest, to be honest. Argarok's coming over here, and there actually is a soft lock here that you can get. If you grab onto Argarok's tail, the first frame that you're able to claw shot onto it, you actually will soft lock, and you'll be stuck on... You'll be floating in the air, just kind of like floating around, not being able to do anything. But after that first grab, you can actually just re-grab the wall here real quick, and then just quickly do a re-grab, and it's a pretty fast first phase. One thing I will mention, this is specific to me only. My GameCube disc reader is actually dying to a certain extent, where sometimes I'm able to encounter some glitches or just weird things that can't normally happen. So sometimes, like right there, Argarok will disappear, and sometimes after the boss fight, I will actually fall off Argarok, which is pretty interesting and actually can lead to a cutscene skip. But unfortunately, since it's not legal to do in a run, because it would require, I believe, tampering the hardware, which I don't tamper my hardware, it's just that my hardware is dying, so it's technically hardware modification. So that's why it is illegal in runs. Alright, so second phase, what we're going to do. We're going to immediately take off Iron Boots and jump off here, just to reset Argarok's position. That resets Argarok's position to be inside, like, the ring here, instead of flying around. And then here, we're just going to want to claw shot as high up as we can. And we're going to do something called Flame Skip. Lets us skip having to wait for Argarok's flame to go out by doing some specific things. So putting on Iron Boots, going down a little bit on the chain there, and then claw shotting right as the fire is above you. I know it's kind of hard to think about that so fast, but it's pretty simple. All we do this, we do this 3 times, and then pretty much the fight is over. So I'll try and explain it again. We'll head over here, put on Iron Boots just to make sure we don't fly away. Try to get as high up as possible, and then wait for Argarok to scream. Once Argarok screams, grab the P-hat, kind of go down a little bit on the chain, and then wait for the flame to be above your head. And then once it's above your head, you can just claw shot the next one, and it should just skip the flame entirely. It makes the phase go by, like, way faster. Alright, so that's 2 out of 3 cycles done. So, unfortunately, we can't do the same thing for the 3rd cycle. We can do something of a sort, but it's not exactly the same. So, once again, I'm going to get as high possible as I can. I'm not going to have Iron Boots on. We're going to grab 4 Piats. So, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we're going to turn around, wait for the P-Hat to get hit by fire, put on Iron Boots, wait for Argarok to start breathing fire again, take off Iron Boots, and then that's pretty much it. That's the whole fight. So yeah, that's pretty much City in the Sky. We are almost done with the run. We have Palace and then Hyrule Castle, and that's it. Palace can be either really good or really bad, so we'll see how it goes out from there. So yeah, pretty much that's all of the Argarok boss fight and City in the Sky. This cutscene does take a long time, unfortunately. A lot of the ending cutscenes are pretty long. So we actually are required, well not required, but most of the time every RTA runner will usually just grab the heart container here. Because we will be taking 2 hearts of damage. So we need to have a, you know, full health, and might as well just grab the heart container. And then now D3 is actually entering the Argarok fight. So by the way, since he is wearing Zoro armor, if he gets hit by any fire at all during this fight, he will actually insta-die because of how much damage it does. So I'm gonna go ahead and put on Iron Boots, and we're gonna grab into the cannon and leave City in the Sky. And if I immediately pull out my sword and do a jump slash here, we can actually land on the bridge instead of in the water, which is really convenient. Then we zoom into the map because of skipping a cutscene earlier, and then we can just warp back to Arbiter's Grounds. So, if you look ahead, you'll see that the spinner thing hasn't brought up the mirror chamber, but since we did everything else, we don't really need to do that. So now it's time for Palace of Twilight, or Palace of Time Loss, or Palace of Time Save. It just depends on the day, I'm not gonna lie. So now we're on the last, I guess, main dungeon besides Hyrule Castle. And this dungeon, there isn't really any tricks. There's a couple of cool techniques, but there isn't really any like sequence breaks or really cool tricks that skip a lot of stuff. This section or this dungeon gets done mostly like the same way a casual player would do it. Just because of the way it's made, there isn't really a way to skip a lot of things. There are some skips or some techniques, but there isn't like a huge amount like any other dungeon. So pretty much here, first half of Palace, what we have to do is go through the 2 sides to get 2 light orbs. And getting the 2 light orbs will we'll take them back to the middle, which will power up our Master Sword to give us the Butter Sword. So we have to go through 2 sides. That'll be 3 rooms total on each side, and then we have to bring the orb all the way back. So we're just gonna keep on, pretty much we're literally just gonna do this whole thing normal, besides a couple strats. Also, opening chests sometimes is very hard in this game. I don't know why. It's also like Wind Waker as well. So yeah, I did forget to mention at the end of each side of these sections in the first half, there is a Phantom Zant fight. There is actually a technique you can actually do to make the fight go faster. Which I will try to explain here once it starts. So I did mess up there, messed up a lot of movement in this race. I will say this isn't one of my best runs, but it is an alright run. So the technique for this fight, if we stab, do 2 quick spins, wait for him to respawn, and then do that 3 times. So this is 2 times. And then do it 1 more time, we can actually skip Zant teleporting away and wasting a lot of time. Because if you do like a full combo on him, he will teleport away and like kind of fake you out, going different directions, and he just wastes a lot of time that way. Then here we can just use Claw Shot to grab the Soul of Light, or the Light Soul. Throw that into the little section it goes into, or the little slot, just to bring up the stairs. And then more swag strats, break slide. Here we can do an L slide, which lets us move a little bit while grabbing onto something with our Claw Shot. It actually can help out like a little bit in this next section, but it doesn't like help out a huge amount. So here, I'm just gonna angle myself in a certain way just to throw that. And then here, if we do an L slide at the correct time, we can actually skip some enemies coming down. Yeah, like that. So yeah, that's the first half of part 1 of Palace done. We'll be heading over to the other side, which is has the infamous name of Time Loss Room, and you will see why. I don't believe I lost any time in this run, but definitely it's a time loss room. So here we're just gonna drop the soul and then equip boomerang, since we will LJ over to the other side. It's just faster than waiting for the platform to go all the way over. The music here is so good, but we don't ever really hear the outside music, unfortunately. So here, this is the time loss room. It's pretty simple. I actually got pretty lucky where these had spawned, so I actually didn't have too hard of a time actually dealing with him. But yeah, this room can go very bad very fast. And unfortunately, I've lost runs here many times. And I believe many other people have as well. But yeah, just like the other side, we're just going to continue through to the end, grab the soul, and then bring it back to the main area. There, that's just a quick little strat. If I hit them both with the boomerang, they'll actually not attack me, and then I can just kill them faster. Then here, we just do just kill the Zant heads and then try to grab on before the cutscene starts. And then we can grab onto this target here, and then pretty much we need a small key in every room to continue on to the next room. So that's pretty much all we do. We just go get the small keys. Then here, if positioned correctly, we can do a quick claw shot grab here to get all the way back. So here is just another Zamp fight. Pretty much the same thing, same technique as the other side. Nothing different. And then we're just gonna bring back the soul, and then we can continue on to the second half of Palace. Yeah, that's just another example of an L slide. Doesn't save too much time, it's just it can help move you in certain scenarios. Yeah, D3 as well did one. So, second side is generally not too hard to bring back the soul. It's pretty easy except for the last room, which is the first room we come into. And even that's not too hard. Yeah, so right after we get outside here, we will actually place both souls in their spots, and then we can actually continue on with second half of Palace, which is I'm not sure if it's much better, but it definitely is more interesting than the first half. So yes, we get the cool music that we barely get to hear. So here, I'm just gonna throw the soul because it's faster. Then I'm just gonna pick it up. And here, this jump sucks because if you do it too early, you waste a lot of time. Then I can throw the orb on here and then I can just jump off. Because, why not? And then now we get our butter sword, or light sword, which will help us complete the second half of the dungeon. This is our dungeon item that we get. Master Schwert. And then here I can try doing a swag strat to save some time. Right here. Nice. And then now we can continue on to the second half of the dungeon. Yeah, so even if we were able to skip this first part, we actually couldn't continue since we do need the light sword. So here we're just gonna continue normal. Just doing the puzzles and everything. Unfortunately, it is very common to get hit there. Those squids are very annoying. And unfortunately, I did get cucked by that. So here, I'm going to try doing a LJA by targeting specific places and waiting for it to go out of bounds. And then here I can try turning on this platform before I'm ready for it, so that it's just ready by the time I'm done with this. So yeah, pretty much every area requires you to get a small key before continuing on, so. Also right here, I'm gonna try doing another LJ, but this one is very risky. If this one does not go out of bounds, because you do have a chance of the boomerang not going out of bounds. And if that happens, you don't get an LJ, and that means you fall all the way down. Here, we're just gonna go for boss key first. Clear the shadow so I can see where my target is at. Unfortunately, I did lose it. So we'll try to re-aim again, and then we can just claw shot through that. And then we can just grab the boss key real quick, and then continue on in getting the small key to progress to the next area. Here, what I can do is I can just roll through here, and then just jump off. Unfortunately, there is a lot of enemies here that like to bother you. And I'm literally one hit, so I have to be very careful here. You can do an LJ right here, but it's pretty risky, somewhat risky, something like that. I actually got really good RNG there. I got a lot of hearts from that pot. So we're just gonna avoid out there after killing the Zant head since it is faster than waiting for the platform. Kill the Zant heads here. And then we just wait for the small key. And once we have the small key, we get to go to this last room, which is right before the boss fight. There's actually a strat here called early platform. So I will try my best to explain this while it's happening. So I can roll 4 times here, and then call Minna, which will stop the platform from moving, but it will still let the timer continue for those shadow beasts to fall down. Then I will jump spin attack here to activate the platform, and then I will bring out my boomerang and wait for a specific visual cue to jump on the platform. Target these walls to do an LJA. And then we will wait to claw shot this target. And then here we get to do a very risky LJA that one day I'm going to fail on a very good run and I'm going to be very upset. So I'm going to do the target 2 sides of the wall, and then wait for it to go out of bounds, and then I can LJ over. That one's not required, but it does help out to get here early. And now, since we are here early, we don't have to wait for an extra cycle. That's what early platform is. And then now we've killed all the Zant heads, so now we just have to wait for the small key. And then here, I can target this specific area just to get an LJA. And then we can just skip waiting for the platform to go over. And then here, this is just kind of the final thing before Zant. yeah, that's pretty much it. Now we are at the boss fight. So Zant is the boss fight of Palace. Zant boss fight is sort of a boss rush of not every fight, but some of the fights. And some of them do have their strats, and some of them do not. So I will try to explain as best as I can as we go. Alright, so first phase is Diababa. There's not really... There is a one-cycle strat, but nobody really goes for it RTA. The task does do it, but nobody, like I said, nobody really goes for it RTA. And for most of these phases, only the fourth hit of a sword combo matters. So, like, the first three don't really matter as long as you hit him with the fourth hit for most of these. That's usually what matters. So here, I'm going to try to do a one cycle. So the jump spin attack, 1, 2, 3, hold, 4, and if done correctly, we do a one cycle. That skips having to wait an extra minimum three teleports. And then here, we are on lake bed phase, which means underwater, which means you can't breathe underwater. So what we can actually do here is position ourselves close enough, grab Zant, do a full combo, and then we can pull out a bomb to refill our air. I did forget to mention, when doing combos, left, right, forward, back is the fastest way to do a combo. It's the fastest combination, at least the sword movement. Then here, Zant will spawn at the furthest Zant head away from you. So we can just refill our air here, and then approach the Zant head. And then we can just grab Zant and then finish lake bed phase. Alright, now I want everyone to get their jams out, their Pepe Jam Cat jams, because there's some really good music right here. So this is Ook phase from earlier. So we just gotta knock him off. We can do a jump spin attack and then a spin attack here. Then we can use ball and chain to knock him off. And then we can just do a jump spin attack and the phase is pretty much over. Now, I did mention this earlier. This is the only reason we require the ball and chain. This is the only reason we need it. It does help out in other places, but this is the only reason we need it. Zant's foot will not get crushed by anything else. It has to be ball and chain. It has to be ball and chain. So unfortunately, Zant does require us to get ball and chain. And then, like I said, it's only the fourth hit that matters of a combo. So easy 2 cycle. Right here, we're gonna do a strat. Like I did mention, only the fourth hit matters. So we're gonna try to do a combo where we only hit Zant with the fourth hit. And then here for the memes, I used ball and chain because why not? It works. So we specifically only want to hit Zant with the fourth hit on those first 2 attacks, because if we hit Zant with any combo that isn't the fourth hit, he will actually teleport away and then attack you again, and it's just like an endless like goose chase to find him again. So it's just better to do it that way. So that was Zant. That's pretty much it. Very fun fight, in my opinion. And now that we finished that, we can actually head over to Hyrule Castle for the end of the game. So yeah. D3 is about to enter Zant as well, so... For D3, he does not have to worry about Morpheal Phase because he has Zora Armor. So that's just another perk of getting Zora Armor. Then we can just teleport to Castletown, or the castle, I guess the Castletown portal, and we can go to Hyrule Castle now and actually try and finish the game. So here we're gonna go to a certain distance on the wall here, and we're actually gonna do an LJ8 to skip talking to the mailman. Because if we did go forward, the mailman would talk to us, and that wastes about 15 seconds, so we don't want that. And here, we're actually going to do a very specific bonk. And if you don't do this, your run's actually invalid. It doesn't count. So you can bonk there and hit the loading zone at the same time. Why not do it? I mean, for the memes. So, this is Squidna cutscene. This is the second bathroom break of the run. This cutscene is actually very long, and it's just pretty much just all about breaking the barrier for Hyrule Castle. So D3's doing Daibaba phase. Unfortunately, he missed his full combo. Pretty much the same thing I went through is what he's going to be doing. Nice, he did get the one cycle as well. And then here's where D3 comes, like... This is where the ease comes from having Zora Armor. He doesn't have to worry about his air meter at all. And then when you do have Zora Armor, your movement underwater is really fast too. Like, you don't have to worry about, like, being slow or anything like that. So here with Zora Armor, you actually can grab Zant early, but I believe D3 unfortunately messed up. Yeah. But still, it's really cool. You don't have to worry about the air meter or anything like that. Alright, so now that the barrier's broken, we can do Hyrule Castle. Hyrule Castle, we can't really skip a lot of things. We can just do the bare minimum. So here I'm going to equip bombs. There's a couple bomb strats we can do here just to kind of make the fights go a lot faster, because these bokoblins have a lot of health. So here I'm just going to pull out a bomb, back up, go back, get hit, and then that should kill them all. And what's really cool about these next areas, these are like mini barrier skips. Since you can skip cutscenes, we can just skip this cutscene, get out of the area, and just go around the barrier. And then here is the final King Boblin fight that we will do. And he will be giving us a small key for the actual castle. Here you can do a quick actual fight, but unfortunately I did mess up on my quick spins. So now we get the small key, and that's going to be to unlock the actual doors for the castle. And here, there is actually an opportunity to do a one-framer. You could do a one-framer backflip and then save warp. It does save a little bit of time. Unfortunately, I did not get it. So, we're just going to roll back all the way to the castle door. I want to be careful not to bonk into that, or else you do have to save warp, and that just wastes more time, unfortunately. So, now we've entered the castle, and there is another barrier here, but like we saw earlier, we can just skip it. Just by doing a jump attack over there, we can actually skip that barrier. Barely, it looks like, but it works. And then here, I'm going to equip Ball and Chain and Boomerang, because I will be needing those in the next room. Here, we can try doing a fast strat for the Darknet fight. So, roll stab, hit him a couple times. Then once his armor's off, we can go up to him and do a side hop to cancel the animation. 2 slashes, bring out Ball and Chain, 1, 2, 3, and pretty much it. Pretty fast, pretty good fast strat. Then we can just put out that torch and then raise the platform to continue on. Pretty much just we're pretty much doing everything else normal, besides a couple things. Now for this room, these Dynalphos are really annoying. So since we do have bombs, we can do a quick kill strat. Just grab a bomb, come to this corner, wait for them to pop up, and just throw a boomerang, and they're dead. Pretty simple. Here, for this fight, there actually is a fast strat you can do, but it doesn't save that much time to go for it in runs. Yeah, here I just finished off the Arialphos, so it was a pretty fast fight. And now we grab the small key. And then we'll continue on normal until pretty much the final climb. So as you saw there, those were people that we honestly never met because we skipped most of the game. So, yeah. Alright, so we're now approaching the final climb. And we can skip this first part by doing some not too precise rolls. We can just keep rolling and skip over everything. And then up here, we can do a couple strats. We can try doing a jump spin attack, which will, if it hits both of them, it will kill both of them. Just like that. Very good. And then right here, we can, if we stand far enough, we can actually grab that claw shot, right, or that target right there. And same thing for here. We're gonna equip our spinner just for the next area. And then beautiful, we got a double kill. Then here, we want to be careful not to hit the spinner things. And then here, right before we hit the actual activation for that fight, we can just grab this target right here and skip the fight. And now we are at the final boss, or final bosses of the game. Alright, so I did mention there's a lot of RNG in this run. I'm going to be completely honest, TP has a lot of RNG. And if you thought it was over, you were wrong. Zelda, so the first boss fight we have to do right here is Puppet Zelda, and she is pure RNG. Fastest fight you can get is a 7 cycle. So there's a minimum of 7 cycles. It can go anywhere from 7 cycles to indefinite, so so far so good. We got an orb. We want to look for an orb on the 1st, 3rd, and 7th. With as little Triforce attacks in between. Since Triforce attacks do waste a lot of time. So, we are getting 2 orbs already, which is really good. We're on pace for a 7 cycle. We get to go see Minova here. Very sad. So far we haven't gotten any Triforce attacks, which is actually really good. So we did get 1. I do have to see up and look down just to reduce lag. And then there's a reason I'm looking this direction and not looking straight at Zelda. If I look in this direction, it lags less, because if I look at the back of the room, it lags a good amount. Alright, so I believe we had a 7 cycle. It was either a 7 or 8 cycle, I don't remember. But we had a pretty good Zelda. It wasn't too bad at all. And then that's first part done. Now we're on to Beast Ganon. And I don't know if you saw, I did equip Ball and Chain earlier, so we're gonna throw Ball and Chain right now just to knock Ganon down. Here we're gonna do a specific combo. It's a jump slash, 1, 2, 1, 2, and then 1, 2, 3, 4. We're gonna do that twice, and that's gonna get Ganon's health to a specific amount so that we can do fast strats. I'm gonna run to this corner over here, intentionally facing the wall so that I don't lag. Just so Ganon spawns over here. I'm gonna throw Ball and Chain. Then we're gonna do the combo again. So jump attack, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Then we can transform into Wolf because we need to be Wolf for the final blow. Or at least to grab Ganondorf. So yeah, now that we did those combos, Ganon's gonna come out instantly since his health is at 1. And then we'll just do a B attack, and that's the whole fight. I would like to make an honorable mention here. One of my mods named Skyrus. So I was on PB pace here. I want you guys to know that. I was on PB pace here. Honorable mention, Skyrus, one of my mods, said GG easy before the run was over. And I'm not going to say anything else. I just want you to see what happens when you jinx the run. Just wanted to throw that out there. So normally, you don't want any of this to happen. You want to immediately go into the light arrow phase. But unfortunately, I got jinxed. And I started choking. So this fight is going actually pretty bad. So what you want normally to happen is to start the light arrow like this, yeah. So yeah, I was ahead of PB. Unfortunately, I did not PB at the end of this because of how much I messed up here. Yeah, so what you want to do here normally is hit Ganon 3 times and then do 3 spin attacks. That's usually what you want to do. But unfortunately, I did mess up. And that did cost me PB. And to be honest, I was actually pretty upset that I did mess that up because I would have had a PB. After, you know, 3 hours. One addition, I guess, side note for running German. This text right here, when it pops up, if you don't click A at all, it'll actually stay on the screen forever. But unfortunately, I can't show that to you since I accidentally clicked A and skipped the text. But yeah, on the German copy, if you don't touch the text, it'll actually stay there forever. It'll just keep staying up, it'll stay there no matter what, until you, like, either advance the text or bring up an item wheel. So, we're on the final fight of the game, Ganondorf. This fight is very hard. It totally isn't like Master Sword Puzzle where I just do a jump spin attack. Another jump spin attack. And then another jump spin attack and the game's over. And that is GG. So that's GG for me. I finished at a 3:03:35, which is, I would say, a pretty alright time. D3 is now entering Zelda, so he's almost done with the run. He did get screwed over a little bit, so. Also, I don't know if you saw, I did put on iron boots, and that's just for the memes. So yeah, D3 is just going to go through the same thing here. He's just going to do the... Unfortunately, it looks like he's getting bad RNG already, so... So yeah, he's just going to go through the same thing that I did earlier. Oh my god, he is actually... Yeah, he's actually getting bad RNG here. That's like, I think, a 9-cycle Zelda? Minimum? 10? I think that's a 10-cycle Zelda? That's a 10-cycle Zelda minimum right there. Like I said, it is RNG, so it's RNG. Oh my god, that is a really bad Zelda. I didn't realize how bad his Zelda was. Alright, so he finally got an orb. Which after, I think on the 4th one, which is really bad. I believe that's an 11-cycle Zelda minimum. So, if you notice, I did put on iron boots right before killing Ganon. And something funny happens here. Link does not skip leg day at all. If you are wondering. So yeah, Iron Boots stay on for that cutscene, which is really funny. Unfortunately, D3 is getting trolled by Zelda. And okay, so D3 is now done with Puppet Zelda. We're gonna move on to Beast Ganon, then Horseback, then Final Ganon.
Space. For horse?
Alright, so we get some good music here to play while we watch D3 fight Beast Ganon. I would switch over to his audio, but unfortunately he does not have clean audio, so it would just be interference of talking. Alright, so D3's on horseback. Hopefully, I believe he had a way better one than I did. I had a horrible horseback, so... yeah, this is kind of what you want horseback to look like. Well, not exactly, but better than what I did. Alright, so D3 is pretty much at the end here. Just the 3 quick jumps, spin attacks, and it's game over, pretty much. GG. So D3 actually did miss 1 jump spin attack. And he's getting trolled by Ganon. So D3 as a memester, he's gonna put on Iron Boots, Lantern, all of the above, and GG. 3, 10, 21. Not too shabby. Obviously, we both could have done way better, but we did get trolled by... This run is very punishing, to be honest. So yeah. GG, everyone. I would like to thank D3 for racing me. I hope you guys enjoyed watching this. This is my first time really commentating my own runs. I would have had D3 with me, but unfortunately, he is busy right now, so... I want to say thank you for your time, thank you for watching over, thank you for considering our race for ESA. We hope we can please you and help you out, so I'd like to thank you for your time, thank you guys for watching, and yeah, good luck to everyone else in their submissions, and yeah. I am the Ethernet Boys, and I'm out. See you guys later. Thank you.